UFC 318 is this weekend and I cannot wait for it. Although there's not like the biggest of the biggest fights, there's no championship fights, and the co-main event is Paulo Costa vs Roman Kopylov. But there is some really good fighters on it and there's some really good fights too. But today we're going to be looking at a couple of prospects fighting on the card who maybe some people don't know, maybe some people do know. So the first one, definitely the one I'm most hyped about, is Islam Dulatov, who's an 11-1 MMA fighter. All his wins are by finish, and his only loss was his first ever professional fight, which happens to a lot of people. Like, that is quite common. Like Jack Della Maddalena, he lost his first two fights, then he's on like a 17 fight win streak now, never losing. Now he's obviously the champion. And then Islam Dulatov, he's 11-1. Obviously that first loss was, well, his only loss, sorry, was his first fight. And then now all them 11 fights have been finishers, and only one of them have gone past the first round. Absolutely brutal. He's a welterweight fighting this weekend, and he's fighting against Adam Fuji, and I think he's going to absolutely destroy him, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, Fuji's quite tough. I reckon he will stay in for a bit. I don't reckon it's going to be like he comes out and knocks him out in 1 minute. I reckon he might finish him maybe the end of round 1 or even into round 2, Dulatov. But he's from Germany, fights out of Germany as well. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's a runway model as well, which is a bit mad for an MMA fighter. But either way, all his finishes are absolutely brutal. He's got solid knees in the Muay Thai clinch, such good boxing as well, especially from his range. He's got dead long arms too. But when you actually watch him, he still stays composed. Even like, I feel like when you watch people with all first round finishes or all finishes in the first or second round, they like come out wild and either get like a big knockout, or they come out wild, maybe hit their opponent and then get a sub. It's not really like that. It is controlled. It is still wild at some points, but like the knockout on the Dana White Contender Series was absolutely brutal. Go watch that if you've never watched that before. Just type in Islam Dulatov on YouTube and you'll see it. It is brutal. But very exciting to see what he's going to get up to in the welterweight division. And I feel like the welterweight division, when the big prospects come into the UFC early and they fight the lower ranked people, they kind of, I don't know, like when I watch Michael Morales' early fights, or I watch even Jack Della Maddalena's early fights, they look good, but they look so much better now, so much better. So I just think whenever I see, especially the lower weight classes, or not even the lower weight classes, to be honest, like the middleweight classes, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, when I see them early in their career, I kind of realise that they're going to get so much better by the end of their career, fighting the top of the top in such hard weight classes. And like Michael Morales is the perfect example for that. If you watch his early couple of fights, they're good, but he just constantly gets better and better each fight. And then obviously he has the Gilbert Burns fight where he takes Gilbert Burns' head off. So Islam Dulatov, I think he'll be the same. I think maybe this fight, he might be a little bit sloppy at times, but he'll get the finish. Second round, he get a little bit better, and then after that, it's just flying from there. But let me know in the comments, do you think he has a future at the top of the welterweight division? I definitely do. It's a big card for him to make his UFC debut on, and hopefully he doesn't get like starstruck or like crumble under the lights, which I don't think he will. He's already fought on pretty good promotions, Brave, Octagon, so it's not like he's never fought on any big promotion in the slightest. But I think he's a real prospect, and he's probably the biggest prospect on this card, I'd say. Maybe the next person, who is Ateba Gutier, and he is from Manchester Top Team, from a great gym. He is a massive middleweight from Cameroon, and he is absolutely shredded. Absolutely shredded. He just fought at UFC Noche, got a first round knockout, and the guy he fought, I can't remember his name, the fella from Bolivia, but he's kind of known for being able to take a shot and keep coming and take a shot, and he kind of, in the end, just pressures you because he can take so much damage and then he wins. That wasn't the case in the slightest. Ateba Gutier landing big boxing. He wasn't like coming out wild too either, because I see loads of people obviously comparing him to Francis Ngannou because he's shredded, he's from Cameroon, he's massive, and it's not really like that. Francis at the start was wild, swinging massive punches, where at Gutiérrez, he had a nice tight guard, using his boxing really well, and then as his opponent, he like landed a couple of shots, and then his opponent dropped his head. He just throws that knee up the middle, gets a brutal knockout, and he is a real problem. He is fighting Robert Valentin this weekend at UFC 318, which is a little bit of a step up from his recent fight in Noche, but Robert Valentin obviously coming off that horrible loss to Torres Finney, that the maddest fight ever, but he is still pretty good. Obviously, he does throw wild stuff. He throws like flying, jumping elbows. He throws flying knees all the time, Superman punches. But he is dead long for the division, and maybe he just seemed long actually when he fights Torres Finney. But he fights out of Bang Tao in Thailand, which means his striking is obviously going to be pretty good. But at Gutiérrez, everyone talks about his wrestling, defense, and maybe you can attack the wrestling, but Manchester Top Team is a great gym. They will be constantly working on him not being able to get taken down because he has so much power, because his striking's so good, and I don't think Robert Valentin will be able to take Gutiérrez down. I don't. And the same as Islam Dulatov, who we just spoke about then, I think Gutiérrez is either going to finish in the end of the first round or in the start of the second round. I think both of them will have dominant first rounds, and if their opponent obviously survives that first round, then they'll finish it early in the second round. But Gutiérrez is definitely someone to look out for. Fights out of a great gym, but if Robert Valentin comes out and wrestles, which I highly doubt he will, because he is more of a striker, but he is 0-2 in his UFC fights, so he needs a win, otherwise he will get caught. He's 10-5, not the greatest record, but he needs a win desperately, and maybe that means he's just going to come out swinging, but I would not want to come out swinging with the Gutiérrez. Therefore, does that mean he's going to come out and just start trying to wrestle him? Obviously, Bang Tao, they have high level wrestling coaches, the Hickman brothers, so maybe he'll do that, but I don't think he will. I think he will come out and strike, and I think Gutiérrez is going to take his head off. But the last prospect that we're going to talk about, it's weird calling this person a prospect because they've had loads of fights in the UFC, but he's second on, Bruno Ferreira. So Bruno Ferreira, obviously, he's coming off a win against Armen Petrosian in his recent fight, obviously won by armbar, but Petrosian was doing all right in that fight, and then Ferreira got it to the ground, took his arm home with him. It was dead nice too, because he was on his back and then he kind of like fell over him, switched it straight into an armbar, so it shows how high level his jiu-jitsu actually is. And he's fighting Jackson McVeigh, who's also making his UFC debut, which is really weird matchmaking in my opinion, because Bruno Ferreira was meant to fight Ikram Aliskerov, and I'm surprised they went and picked Jackson McVeigh as the replacement, because if I'm not mistaken, Aliskerov pulled out about 3-4 weeks ago, and Jackson McVeigh, obviously, he was meant to make his debut a couple of weeks ago, and then his opponent pulled out, and I think his opponent got cut because he weighed in such overweight, but he was on like 5 days notice, so I thought that was pretty harsh, but it is the UFC. Don't take the call if you don't think you can make it. But Jackson McVeigh, he has got pretty good jiu-jitsu, does finish most of his fights, but Bruno Ferreira, his jiu-jitsu is really high level, and it kind of goes under the radar. Obviously, they nickname him Hulk because he literally does look like Hulk. I feel like people underestimate his jiu-jitsu. Like, he's got really good subs against people. Obviously, in his last fight against Armen Petrosian, nearly snapped his arm. I think he did actually break his arm. Obviously, Armen Petrosian then got cut. But before that, he did get subbed by Abu Smagomedov, which isn't the worst loss. Abu Smagomedov is doing really well since then, and in that fight though, Bruno Ferreira had him hurt. He should have really finished Abu Smagomedov in that fight, but he never. Before that though, he's knocked out Gregory Robocop. Just got a mad knockout against Jack Hermanson on the last pay-per-view. He got a brutal knockout against Dustin Stolzford. A spinning elbow that was absolutely clean. The referee instantly jumped in. He actually landed a spinning elbow about 45 seconds before that, and then finished him with another one, which is mad, like a double spinning elbow. I do think Bruno Ferreira is going to get a finish probably in the first round again. I think all of them are going to be in the exact same boat. If they don't get the first round finish, it's going to be early second round. I can't see any of them going to decision. I can't really see any upsets going either. All of them are massive favourites with the bookies. I don't really see an upset from any of them. The closest one I see is Robert Valentin. And even then, I don't really. I think Ateba Gutierrez is going to take his head off. But yeah, Islam Dulatov, I think he's going to win by second round finish. I do think it's going to be second round. Bruno Ferreira, I think it's going to be first round knockout or submission. And Ateba Gutierrez, I'm going to say first round knockout as well. Let me know in the comments who you think's going to be the biggest prospect out of all of them. In my opinion, just because of the weight class he's in, I'm going to actually go with Ateba Gutierrez, to be honest, more than Islam Dulatov. Now I think about it, because the middleweight division, it's good, but it's nowhere near as stacked as the welterweight division. Outside the rankings of the welterweight, it's still brutal. Where outside the rankings in the middleweight, it's not as high level. Obviously, if all these win, Islam Dulatov, I'd like to see him kind of move up the rankings slowly, just because what I was saying with the welterweight division, where all the fighters, all the big prospects, they get so much better each fight. So I'd like them to take it slow and give him maybe someone low down the division again next, then someone in the middle, then maybe not even then someone who then gets into the rankings, maybe two more then into the rankings, then we're on. Don't get me wrong, if he finishes everyone in the first round, it's going to be pretty hard to not bump him up the rankings fast. But Ateba Gutierrez, I think after this fight, Robin Valentin does seem pretty good, even though he has lost his first two fights in the UFC. But in my opinion, if he does knock out Rob Valentin in the first round, maybe he can get a bit more of a push, because he is a middleweight, maybe, which would be a mad one, because I know MMA Guru talks about this, about putting two prospects together. If Shara Bullet wins next weekend at UFC Abu Dhabi, maybe he could fight Ateba Gutierrez. Or if Bo Nickel wants to fight Ateba Gutierrez, I think that'd be pretty good for his wrestling, but he could get knocked out cold, so that'd be a sick fight. Other than that, Bruno Ferreira, he's kind of he was meant to fight Alex Gerov, who's near the top of the rankings, so even Bruno Ferreira could fight Ateba Gutierrez next, but I think he'll probably get someone just outside the rankings, or maybe ranked 15, 14 if he wins this fight. But let me know in the comments who you think the biggest prospect is. Do you think they will win? And if so, what do you think they will win by? And I will see you later.